Hey, just in time for the holidays, what if you didn't have to worry about any of that credit card debt? If you're feeling stuck making the minimum payments and you don't want to have to put Christmas on a credit card, we can help at savewithconrad.com. We routinely help our listeners save hundreds of dollars a month. Find out how much money you can save right now for free at savewithconrad.com. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to Grillin' JR with the voice of wrestling, Mr. Jim Ross. Jim, how are you, man?
I'm good, Connie. I'm good. Good to see your jovial cheeks and your handsome face. I'm glad to be back home. I'm in Jacksonville now. I'm moving around a lot, you know.
Yes, sir.
Us transients, us wrestling people. We relocate. But anyway, I'm in Jacksonville, and I was, like we were saying before we went on the air, you know, heck, I got it's Monday morning. We're recording this on Monday morning, just to be transparent, which is a nice way to be. It's not always that way in wrestle, kids, and being honest, and it's not always that way, kids. So I was looking at my device. What is this thing called?
iPhone, a tablet.
Tablet. I'm looking at my tablet, and I see a notice that I have a upcoming flight information. And I said, wait a minute. That's tomorrow. I'm flying to Norfolk, Virginia tomorrow. Can that be? So anyway, the show never stops, and we keep on rolling. And to be honest with you, there's no place I'd rather be than on the road doing AEW wrestling. That's my sanctuary. That's my safe place, if you will. I'm not a buzzword. I'm trying to be cool and trendy. And I'll try not to call you Thompson Conrad or Brian Danielson or Daniel Bryanson.
Oh, God, nobody cares. Listen, man, shake that shit off. What a great job you had, calling an incredible pay-per-view, putting incredible lyrics to some incredible music, if you will, this past week. I think people are going to be talking about Full Gear for a long, long time. And as everyone is listening to this, we had the follow-up effort last night on Dynamite, Rampage, of course, this Friday night. But man, Hangman Adam Page, a star is born. You got a new champ.
Yeah, Adam had the night that he needed.
Yeah,
he had the performance more specifically that he needed. And give a lot of credit to Kenny Omega. You know, Omega's body's just battered. He's got bad shoulders. He's got to take some time. I don't know what he's going to do. If I were him, and I'm sure Tony Khan is feeling somewhat the same way, you got to get the guys some rest. He's got to heal a little bit. And quite frankly, that's not a bad thing, because he lost the title. Now he can not go invisible, but he can be less prominent on the shows as a wrestler and more as a personality until he's healthier. And but Kenny Omega deserves a hell of a lot of credit for making that match with Adam as good as it was. And here's the other thing about that, Connie, that, you know, wrestlers we're all the same in this crazy ass business. We're all paranoid. We're all insecure, all that stuff. That's all true. But I think that, I think Kenny he elevated. He made sure that the transition from himself to Hangman Page was spot on, and it was. So I really enjoyed their outing. But here's what I was going to say: this Full Gear was a hell of a show, and I'm not going to be monsooning it here and pat myself on the back and breaking my arm. But I think it was generally considered a hell of a show.
Yes.
Some matches are better than others in people's perception, and that's always going to be that way. Everything's not a tie. Everything's not 4 stars on the money or 5 stars or whatever. But I think that to follow everything on the card with some of the best workers in the world, leading into your match. What do you do to make your match different? What do you do to tell a better story? What do you do to execute better? That's all there. It's all in front of you. That's a hell of a challenge for two guys, because they knew when they went out there. I mean, it's like being in baseball or being a quarterback in football, and you got a 2-minute drill here. You got to deliver. It's not an option. Well, we should deliver here. No, we have to deliver here. And those guys really rose to the occasion. So I think Page is going to make a great champion.
Yep.
People are already talking about Bryan Danielson. I got it right. And as the number one contender. So, and that match will be one of the great experiences of Hangman Page's career. Bryan Danielson is a maestro. Did I say it right there? Yeah, Bryan.
He's unbelievable. I think he's arguably, not only the best wrestler in the world, but one of the best wrestlers of all time. And he's finally getting to show what he can do. And I'm excited for what's next. And people are going to be talking about this pay-per-view for a long, long time. And we hope you guys enjoyed Dynamite last night with good old JR, and probably catch him again next week, man. You're back on the road. And next week, I think, is the Chicago Thanksgiving tradition you guys are doing again, right?
Yeah, it's sold out. It's just amazing. That city, if that's not the home base type thing of the hot spot for AEW, I don't know where it is, because look at all the stuff we've done in Chicago this year, and successfully. Not just that was OK House. It was half full. This is the big building, I think, downtown, which I like because the hotels are close by. And you get to fly out of O'Hare on Thanksgiving morning. That's always a joy. So, yeah, I think that we're just on a real good roll, and there's more pieces coming. And how Tony Khan uses them is certainly his prerogative. I'll say this, and I should say this, and I know it's going to come off as ass kissing, but it's not. Tony booked a hell of a show. Let's give the devil his due, so to speak. He booked a hell of a card, and one of the reasons he did it, because he is always willing to receive the input of the talent. And I remember Bill Watts doing that time and time again, because I would be sitting in those meetings with the Cowboy and his main event guys when I was very, very young, taking notes. And pardon me. So anyhow, I really respect how Tony books, and he booked a hell of a card. And I thought that it started off good. I think the match between MJF and Darby Allin was kind of a pleasant surprise, because they had a hell of a wrestling match. And MJF hasn't wrestled that much recently. He's disturbed. As Heenan would say, he's tripped and passed knucks, so to speak. But I thought they had a good match. It was a great start, a great opener. Boy, if I had a chance to, either you want to close the show in a pay-per-view or you want to start it. It's my philosophy. So anyway, I thought we did well there. It was kind of good to get back in the Mid-Atlantic, and all that good stuff. So for this next week, then Chicago, and I think the Chicago, like I said, I'm pretty sure it's sold out, but I swear to it. So anyway, it's all good. Business has been good. Next week's going to be a real kind of a touch and go week for me. I'm supposed to get on Monday morning, 2 cancer spots cut out of my back. I'm really looking forward to that. Then they said, well, it's only a few stitches. Yeah, but I'll get ready to get on an airplane, and these things going to be bandaged. I can't scratch them. I can't touch them. I'll be doing this a lot, like a dog or a horse, leading up to a tree. If I could just make that Mr. Ed smile, I'd be right on the money. Then I'm supposed to go after that on Monday. I got to go to my oncologist, and he's going to, they're making me a boot, they call it. And the boot is what you slip on so that the radiation machine can have a target. And I don't know if it attaches or whatever, but it's there to not give you any more radiation than you need, and only on the spot that is affected. And then on Wednesday, if I'm alive, I'm kidding. Kidding, Lord. Jan will tell you I'm kidding, God. I don't want. I'm good. I plan on going to Chicago, and I plan on going to Gibson's. I am. I'm going to keep my life, and I'm going to go to Gibson's and have a nice little steak, and then on Wednesday we're going to kick ass.
And by the way, tickets are on sale right now. AEWTIX.com. Still a handful of seats available. But this is going to be a fun show, man. When dinner time hits and your fridge is full of question marks, ButcherBox has your back. Skip the last minute supermarket sweep or impromptu chop challenge with whatever's left in your fridge. ButcherBox delivers better meat right when you need it. ButcherBox delivers over 100 premium protein choices straight to your door, including 100% grass-fed beef, free-range organic chicken, pork raised crate-free, and wild-caught seafood. You see, for nearly a decade, ButcherBox has led the industry with meat and seafood that's antibiotic-free, hormone-free, and independently verified. It's a cleaner, more trustworthy version of what you'd find at the grocery store, but delivered right to your door. Every product meets the same rigorous standards, whether it's filet mignon or chicken nuggets. And whether you're hosting for the holidays or meal prepping through chaos, or maybe you're just feeding a family with picky preferences, I want you to know that ButcherBox offers fully customizable plans that fit your needs and your schedule. I got to tell you, I wasn't so sure about the filet mignon, and then I tried it. Dude, this is like, JR likes to say restaurant quality. This is that and then some. I also want to mention, as a certified B Corp, ButcherBox is committed to high standards, from how the animals are raised to how their team supports workers and reduces the environmental impact. I'm a big believer in this product, and if you're talking to me and JR, we're going to make sure we're eating good, and you will be too, thanks to our friends at ButcherBox. And right now, as an exclusive offer, our listeners can get turkey or ham in their first box, or choose ground beef for life, plus $20 off your first order. Go right now to butcherbox.com/JR to choose your offer and get this limited time deal with free shipping always. That's butcherbox.com/JR. Don't forget to use our link so they know we sent you. That's butcherbox.com/JR. And so is today's show, by the way.
Yeah, let's get after it.
We're talking about something that happened 20 years ago, Survivor Series 2001. And we've really started to chronicle, everything that happened 20 years ago. And that's what we're going to keep up with today. What happened between, No Mercy 2001, which we've covered, and then last week's Chris Jericho 2001. And now here we are, essentially the end of the invasion. And boy, this had been a fantasy thing for years and years, especially if you went to the old newsstand and you saw the quote unquote after mags. Boy, for decades, they had all kinds of cover pages about what would happen if this guy from company A wrestled this guy from company B. And now we get it here in 2001, and it's just not what we hoped. Coming out of No Mercy, though, we have a new WCW champion in Chris Jericho, and now he's quickly being elevated to be the top heel. Steve Austin retains his WWF title, defeating both Angle and Rob Van Dam in a 3-way, and The Undertaker defeated Booker T. So the next night at Raw in Kansas City, it's a star-studded card like everything in 2001. But even for the dark matches here, check this out. Chuck Palumbo would beat Randy Orton, and Billy Gunn would beat Brock Lesnar. So some sort of tryout matches, if you would. The dark matches here, getting some reps in front of the big crowd. Randy Orton and Brock Lesnar. I'm sure you could see right away these guys are going to be studs.
Oh yeah, absolutely. When I signed Brock Lesnar, with all of Jerry Briscoe's help, he was a no-miss guy unless he self-destructed on the road for social issues. Goes for everybody. Are you a good traveler? Are you a good locker room guy? Are you a good teammate? Blah, blah, blah. But I think it was a favor to both Randy and to Brock to work that show in front of a big crowd and learn how to lose and how to lose the right way. Because, Conrad, I'm not going to say they learned in one match. The deal is that the locker room was going to be more willing to accept a Randy Orton and a Brock Lesnar who they could see are going to threaten their spots. And I thought it maintained some peace in the valley and some order. Both those guys losing. Them losing had nothing to do with the lack of confidence Are they going to make it? Are we still trying to decide if they're going to get here? And the big roster, blah, blah, blah. That was already foregone conclusion. But I think for the locker room's sake and their perception in the locker room, doing the honors, even though it was dark, there's people there.
Yeah.
Was a smart thing to do. So I thought that was good booking.
On Raw that night, we would see Tajiri beat Billy Kidman to win the WCW Cruiserweight title. Kurt Angle would defeat Rhino to win the WCW US title. Bradshaw would defeat the Hurricane to win the European title. And Chris Jericho and The Rock, who just the night before had fought for the WCW title, would defeat the Dudley Boyz to win the WWF tag straps. So literally the only wrestler from the Invasion still holding a title is Rob Van Dam, and he's hardcore champion. And then that same night at Raw, just as Vince and Linda McMahon tease making out inside a ring, the challenge is made and accepted. It's going to be the WWF versus the Alliance in the main event of Survivor Series, and the losing team would have to disband. To put this in perspective, the company purchased WCW in March. Here we are with the end of it in November. 8 months.
Yeah.
8 months. Meltzer would say the WWF needs major changes, and I'm not confident anybody really knows what the changes need to be, because the problems aren't as simple as those that killed WCW, or that those changes will be coming. Maintaining and going back the over 30 crowd goes against every way of thinking in that company. And I don't think anyone really knows what has lost the audience. I don't buy it's less emphasis on the matches, although the long-term survival, that is part of the package that needs to change. Most of the shows themselves have contained good wrestling, at least by WWF standards. So while people complain about matches, there are problems like overdone ref bumps and a fear that without a gimmick finish, people will think it's a flat finish, but ultimately kills people taking wins and losses seriously, which hurts or which leads to far-reaching problems. The writing, particularly the long-term writing, is pretty bad, and the writers being the focal characters causes more problem. I think the long-term soap opera storylines, mainly the ones involving the top characters, far more than the in-ring product, is what builds numbers. So let's take a timeout right there. I think everybody agrees with that. Matches are important, but we've got to have stakes. We've got to tell a story. People have to care. And it feels like for whatever reason, Jim, they just were not caring about this invasion, which seemed like our fantasy for decades, but in execution, it just fell flat.
Well, I tell you, I think that it was a gimmick finish smorgasbord, a buffet of ref bumps and feet on the ropes and all these things. And when you have the talents that have a voice, that's what you can find. Because they're going to try to, if they're going to do the honors, they want to do the honors where they have an out. It's not enough to have a great match, to have a match that has some parity as far as who's on offense the most or on defense the most or whatever. It's just somewhere along the way, the fact that the talent can convince the old man or Pat Patterson or somebody else that they need more gimmicks in the match or more an outs in the match, I've got to be protected, shows me that their talents have the wrong perspective. And what does the business mean, Conrad? Seriously here, when you can't lose to another guy's finish?
Yeah.
I don't, you know what I mean? I don't get that. So if I'm a wrestler, which pray to God that thank God that never happened, to any degree. I don't know. I just don't understand the reasoning behind it. And in AEW, for example, I don't know how we had some unique finishes on Saturday night in Minneapolis at Full Gear, but we had winners and losers.
That's right.
And the talents that dropped the falls, I never heard one person, and maybe they did, whisper to their buddy, I can't believe I'm doing this. I don't think that ever happened. But I heard nobody complaining and bitching and moaning. I always tell all of us that, man, it's 3 seconds for that to take place. How long's your match? Well, we got 20 minutes. Okay. Then you got 19 minutes and 57 seconds to kick ass. That's how I look at it. And then the finish has got to be led right into perfect and fit like a glove. And I thought those guys did that, but our finishes became a gimmick. There's too many gimmick finishes, and guys felt uncomfortable even losing to another talent's finishing move. Can you imagine the revolt it would be if people had a problem at this show or shows leading subsequently into this show, if putting Austin over with a stunner? He beat everybody with a stunner. Now that is how it's supposed to work. You win with your finish. So anyway, it was a very troubling times. We seem to be philosophically disjointed somewhat. Too many cooks in the kitchen, maybe. I don't know exact reasons. I do know this: that angle was cut too short. It had a great future. And you had 2 leagues, you had a big enough roster to stock the shelves of 2 shows. And because of frustrations and politics and things of that nature, or so it seemed to me, the angle was said, okay, let's just get out of this deal. And that caused a lot of issues we'll talk about here today.
All right, guys, it's time to enter the room dick first. Blue Chew is not just a tablet. It's a cheat code for your crotch. Stronger, harder, longer lasting. Like somebody gave your downstairs a pep talk and a gym membership, Blue Chew is the original brand offering chewable tablets for better sex. I got to tell you, I tried Blue Chew and now my hog has a zip code and voting rights. Guys, we're not just talking about your performance. We're talking about your legacy or your third leg. A C. Give our group chat something to talk about. Nothing makes you more of a legend than a little Blue Chew. Go discover your options right now at bluechew.com. And boy, do we have a special deal for our listeners. As always, get your first month of Blue Chew free. Just use the promo code JR at checkout and pay $5 for shipping. That's it. Join Blue Chew's mission to upgrade humanity one thrust at a time. Head on over to bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And a big thanks to Blue Chew for sponsoring today's podcast. And JR's hog. Come on now. Blue Chew's been with us since day one. Find out why. Try it for yourself. Go right now to bluechew.com. Use the promo code JR. Let's also mention another quote from Meltzer here. Perhaps the biggest frustration is that everyone knows the multi-million-dollar angle that will turn the thing around, but it requires getting Bischoff, Goldberg, etc., and requires the McMahons to be vulnerable, and requires the long-term wrestlers to accept the idea that because business is bad, some guys need to be jump-started ahead of existing, and in most cases, better talent. It's also mentioned here as he wraps up his diatribe here. It's not happening now, and it feels like we're in a holding pattern, waiting for, of all people, Kevin Nash to save the day. And that's not a position I'd like to gamble the industry on. But I do think that he sort of hits the nail on the head. In order for this thing to have really worked, the McMahons would have had to at least momentarily allowed the perception that, WCW is going to kick our ass. And they probably didn't want to do that. And they would have had to open up the checkbook to get Eric Bischoff to lead this group, not one of the McMahons.
Well, here's the thing. And I don't mean to cut you off, but while I'm thinking about it, it takes 2 to tango.
Sure.
Some of those guys that have been mentioned here, Kevin Nash, et cetera, how do we all know that they were wanting to get back on the road, wanting at the latter stages of their career? Because all of them are, had 20 years or so experience. They've been battered at surgeries and all this stuff. How do we all know that they wanted to get back on the road? Well, I can tell you who knows. I know. They weren't interested. And they were going to let their contracts play out with Time Warner, because Time Warner was paying a handsome sum to those individuals. So there's two definitive ways to looking at this thing. Is Meltzer right that if we had the full complement of talents, and we had Goldberg and all the other guys that had Hall and Nash and all that good stuff, Eric would have been perfect. But and I'm not saying Eric didn't want to come to work. I don't know that he did or he didn't, because I don't think he and I had a conversation about that at that point in time. But it was finally decided that he would come to work, and he did a good job, did a real good job. That hug he had with McMahon on the stage was epic. And I thought Eric did a great job. He beat me in a match on Raw and got color. What's he want? So anyhow, but I want some of it takes two to tango. Some of those guys just didn't want to come back on the road. They weren't ready to come back on the road yet. And those that have been off, Conrad, want to make sure their bodies are right, make sure they were healthy, they look good, they're in show shape. And you can't get in show shape just being off work. You still got to train and prepare for it. And some of the guys just didn't seem to be motivated for that at that time.
But isn't that part of the other side of the coin? Like, if you don't have the right talent for this angle, maybe wait and do it when you do.
Well, I think that's a good point. I think but I think what we thought was what we had, combining all the talent, the Booker T's of the world from WCW, et cetera, and mixing them in with some established WWE guys with a great name identity was enough.
Yeah.
I think that was the thought. We hoped it would be enough because there just wasn't any chance at that time to get to those other guys we talked about. It would have made my job a lot easier, but it just didn't work out.
I want to mention this show that we just recapped here, this Monday Night Raw, is one night after the No Mercy pay-per-view, which was a decent card, but it fell to its lowest rating in its normal time slot for a non-holiday show since March 30th, 1998. To put that in perspective, that's before Raw was able to end the 83-week streak of Monday Nitro. And that was against a Nitro and Monday Night Football. But boy, it's starting to taper off here in a major way. I also want to mention there's some other news from that episode of Raw. Meltzer would write, RVD pinned Show after a Van Daminator and a Frog Splash in 445. Originally, this match was supposed to be Rob Van Dam versus Undertaker. Plan A was for RVD to win, but kind of give him some steam coming off the pay-per-view loss. Plan B, not because Taker refused to do the job, but because several agents felt it would send a bad message for RVD to beat Taker, at least to the dressing room. They set up a finish where Austin would interfere and cost RVD the match. With Austin out, they couldn't come to any sort of agreement, so they just scrapped it and put Show in the spot instead. Do you remember there being some, I don't know, backlash against Rob Van Dam? This is interesting to me that, hey, we can't have Rob Van Dam beat the Undertaker. What sort of message does that send to the locker room? That seems silly to me, Jim.
It is silly, Conrad. And I didn't know our agents were so benevolent and so caring and warm. And they thought it was the right political thing to do. They were trying to protect Taker. I understand their loyalty, and I admire that. But Taker had no issues doing business. I think that one of RVD's strikes was the fact that he was being endorsed so strongly by Heyman.
I see. Heyman is your commentary partner, just to give context for that. This is the era where Lawler's out, so he's probably beating that drum pretty hard, and maybe that's rubbing some guys the wrong way. I like that.
It could have been that way because Paul could be very abrasive if he had the audience to be abrasive in front of.
Right.
And he's also very cerebral because he's so goddamn smart. And I'm not saying that in a facetious way. Yeah. He really is. But he could be dogged. He'd be a great salesman.
He is a great salesman.
Yeah, he is. Look at him now. He's a difference maker in WWE.
For sure.
And I'm happy for him. He's still a friend of mine. He was always a friend of mine. We argued like cats and dogs, but it's so what?
Right.
I thought we had a good team. I thought he and I did well together. I enjoyed working with him because he generally would figure out a way to piss me off. And when he did, then I would be Red Ass JR before Red Ass JR was making hot sauce. So, but I think that had an issue that Raw's biggest advocate, no pun intended here, was Paul Heyman. And Paul Heyman had some issues with some older decision makers and older agents because he was more of a contemporary thinker. He was very smart. And sometimes Paul would come up with things that even though they may have tried to shoot holes in, it just didn't work. He was a smart guy. So I think that was the issue there because you can't say it was Rob Van Dam's ability.
Right.
Rob Van Dam was great in the ring. and one of my favorite guys to watch and call matches for. He kept reinventing himself. He kept introducing new things into his repertoire, and he got over. He got over. So instead of going with what's getting over, again, decisions like this are what made that alliance thing fail. And I don't know that Vince ever had confidence in it. I was surprised that we did it. I was even more surprised that we cut it short, because I thought that this show, as we'll talk about here, that match was the show, in my opinion. Not to denigrate any of the other boys and ladies on the show, but that one match, and I love the fact that it was an elimination match. The boys didn't like it because that meant you got a lot of finishes.
Right.
Oh, I got to protect myself. Can you imagine trying to come up with something that's going to protect 9 finishes?
No.
Silly.
It's a little silly, but they get back on the right track with what they're trying to accomplish with Rob Van Dam. The next day at SmackDown in Omaha, we would see the Dudleys defeat the Hardys to win the WCW tag titles. And then unbelievably, with a little help from Test and Booker T, Rob Van Dam beats The Rock. So what they were trying to do on Raw with The Undertaker, The Rock steps up and does it here at SmackDown. Let me just tell you, Thanksgiving for guys like JR and I is almost like a holiday in and of itself. November hits harder than a linebacker. Between the family drama, the football brain melt, and the turkey sweats that last through New Year's, you're going to need jeans that actually handle it all and keep you looking damn good. I'm talking about the Perfect Jean. Their new 4-way dynamic stretch means you have seconds, thirds, and even a whole pie without popping a button in front of the in-laws. You can feast in peace before heading back for some family football action. They've got the reinforced stitching. They've even got the YKK zippers that are going to hold on fast. We're talking no rips, no embarrassing crotch blowouts. You can embrace the super soft, seriously stylish denim. And dude, just melt into the couch. We all know after a bunch of turkey, we all need to take that turkey nap. Well, you can do that comfortably in the Perfect Jean. You see, the Perfect Jean has 6 fits, from skinny to the best-selling athletic to thick for the big boys like me. They serve the humble man with no tailor required. It's a huge range of sizes too. We're talking 26 to 52 inch waists and 26 to 38 inch lengths. Short kings, big boys, and everyone in between, they got you with the Perfect Jean. And style-wise, just take your pick. The Perfect Jean has 18 washes that go with everything. From your basic blues to grays to whites, whatever you're looking for, the Perfect Jean makes it easy for you to pair and look good at Thanksgiving and listen to old Uncle Bob's political rants. We're not just talking about jeans either. The Perfect Jean can help you get the perfect wardrobe. They're easy to pair and mix and match with fuss-free fashion. You see what we did there? The 3 F's. Grab a few fall-colored, buttery soft tees, class it up with a polo that hugs your arms and your chest but hides that burgeoning Turkey Day beer belly. Or what about the Den khakis? These are their trademark denim / khaki hybrid that packages both comfort and style. This is ready for the office. It's ready for travel. And yes, it's polished enough to impress those in-laws. Don't let stiff jeans ruin the holidays. Join 500,000 dudes who've uncrushed their nuts with the Perfect Jean. Head to theperfectjean.nyc or just Google the Perfect Jean. And for a limited time, listeners get 15% off their first order, plus free shipping, exchanges, and returns. Just use the code JR15 at checkout. That's 15% off your order with the code JR15 at theperfectjean.nyc. Save today and stay perfect with the Perfect Jean. The next week at Raw, Brock Lesnar and Shelton Benjamin are going to team up. And they're going to defeat the OVW Tag Team Champions, the Prototype, Enrico Constantino. By the way, the Prototype is John Cena. How about that? Brock Lesnar, John Cena, Shelton Benjamin. This is before the cameras are rolling. That's wild, dude. The next level, the next class of talent is just unbelievable.
Yeah, and I think that we're trying to get to that.
Yeah,
it's just, you know, there's a method to this madness. We were trying to get to the fact that it was obvious we're going to use Lesnar and Orton and Cena and Shelton and Batista. All those guys are in one class that we sent to OVW. So it was just a matter of how do we bring them in with some sort of fanfare that is significant and that will enhance and quicken their name identity and their ability to get over. So, but we were on that road, and I think that was a decision. I think that having those guys may have been one of the main reasons that Vince wanted to say, we're done with this deal. We're done with it because I got guys coming that are young and new and fresh, and this is where we're headed. We're going here. We're not going there.
I wanted to mention, since you brought up OVW, the Observer would report, quote, Jim Ross met with Jim Cornette, Les Thatcher, and Danny Davis for 4 hours on October 29th in Louisville before Raw to talk about developmental talent. Everyone was high on Rico being ready, although there was a little concern over his comedic style in the ring. There's a strong feeling to not rush Lesnar out there because he isn't ready. The Goldberg push was talked about, but the feeling was after that, his weaknesses due to the lack of fully understanding of the business, since he didn't really grow up a fan, would work against him. Lesnar's developmental contract is significantly higher than most because there was serious interest from both WCW and New Japan. Because of that, there is this innate pressure to get him to the big show just to justify the deal. Do you remember this meeting talking about, hey, what are we going to do with all these boys with Cornette, Thatcher, and Davis?
Well, yeah, I remember it because it was a significant meeting. I didn't have even though I liked Rico a lot, class guy, I didn't have the confidence. I think Cornette might have been his biggest supporter, but I might be wrong on that. I don't think anybody was against him, but I didn't have the high opinion that he was going to be a main event guy as some of the others, which only meant we had a difference of opinion. But we wanted to make sure that we didn't screw up the other guys that we were talking about, Lesnar's and all those dudes, Cena, Randy. I said this before, and that was one of the greatest classes that we've ever signed. And the best athlete of the group was not Brock Lesnar. It was Shelton Benjamin. And so I thought I had high hopes for Shelton. And I don't think Shelton, even to this very day, has gotten the breaks or the accolades that he deserves, or he could have. He could have been a major star in singles or tags, but he was relegated in tags because that was a good placeholder, I suppose. And in regards to the meeting being 4 hours, Conrad, you got to understand, it was all about food. We had lunch.
Oh, there you go.
And it took longer. It was on Vince's tab, so everybody ate good.
For you.
And yeah, so yeah, I remember it. I love working with those guys in OVW. OVW was one of the biggest assets that the WWE ever had. They certainly were the forerunner to the Performance Center and all those things. When you got Brock Lesnar driving the ring truck and all the wrestlers involved in being on the ring crew, we weren't going to hire ring crew guys. There's a bunch of them right there. Let's get those guys to do this. And because Lesnar grew up on a farm in South Dakota, had been grown up driving a tractor and pickup trucks and other things, he was nominated to be the foreman. And he loved that. So, and he was a good one. So yeah, I remember the meeting, and it was a good meeting, I thought. And I hope the other guys would say that to this day, but the only thing I can remember negatively, or in a somewhat of a little bit of a cloudy vent, would be the confidence that some had in Rico being a main event guy, and some of us, especially me, that thought he could contribute. He'd be great in the locker room. He'd be a reliable, solid hand, but he ain't going to hit fourth. He's a 7 or 8 or 9 hole hitter. But he's on the team. He could contribute, but just not to the level that some perceive that he might.
So RVD, coming off the big win here over The Rock, gets pinned by Edge. Kurt Angle would defeat William Regal with an ankle lock. And then in the main event, Kurt Angle turns on the WWF to help Shane McMahon pin Vince McMahon. So Angle, who's being pushed as the top babyface, the Olympic gold medalist and the hero coming off of 9/11, turns heel. Jim, the creative here is just all over the place. In hindsight, this has got to be even frustrating to hear. I can't imagine you trying to sort of put lyrics to this. What can you tell us about, after all of this that we've done with Angle, we got to do something right to sell the pay-per-view. Well, what if we turn him heel?
Well, there's a lot of knee jerk here, pal. There's a lot of, the booking was, like you said, all over the place. And generally, when one drives a vehicle all over the place, the vehicle does not have a clearly defined destination. And we had no destination there. We had a lot of parts, a part over here and a part over there, and so forth. But it was just the direction was lacking big time. Again, a lot of cooks in the kitchen. We talked about some of the agents, and that means Pat Patterson to me. And nobody respected Pat, still does this day more than me, I promise you. But he had a lot of influence, and he was stubborn. And when those guys talked Vince out of RVD beating the Undertaker to put RVD, elevate RVD, look at what we did for Jeff Hardy in that ladder match with the Undertaker, and Jeff lost, but the Undertaker made sure he had a great showing, and Jeff Hardy got over in a losing effort. Remember, all the guys say,
yeah.
Now they say it. It's not who goes over, it's who gets over. Well,
That's
it's
right.
always been that way. It's not a new deal. It's not a new concept. So I don't want to say we were rudderless, because we weren't totally rudderless. Vince just wasn't sure where he wanted to sail, where he wanted to take that big yacht, what island, where do you want to go, and so it was. It took a little time to get that done.
I want to mention there's a lot written in the Observer about some frustrations in the locker room, that you had this harmonious, perfect business model just 1 year prior. But now, because business is down on the heels of WrestleMania 17 with turning Steve Austin heel, and you've got all of these new talents coming in, some of the lower or mid card guys have started to get booked less and less on house shows, so they're earning less money. And the crowds are down because of the poor creative, that maybe the whole Austin thing was the first domino to fall, him turning heel. So if you get booked, you're probably going to make a lot less money than you did last year, but that's still an if, because now it's getting awfully crowded. Now, for a lot of folks, that's just whatever. But for Jim Ross, when he's running talent relations, boy, you're trying to keep a lot of unhappy people just satisfied. How frustrating was this as an administrator for you?
Well, it was challenging. That job was always frustrating, because he wore many hats. Again, no pun intended. You know, you had to be a clergyman, you got to be a financial advisor, you got to be a father confessor, you got to be a good listener. So it was challenging. And here's the most frustrating thing is, I was not able to answer their questions adequately. I didn't know the future. I didn't know where we were going with this thing. I don't know what the Vince's plans for you are. Now, would I try to ascertain the answers to those things? Absolutely. But they left my office not getting everything addressed that they came to talk about. So it was very frustrating. And I felt bad for some of the guys, because here's what you find out. And this is one of the reasons I preached on this so many times. Save your money. Have a plan. Have a plan where you can have the old plan B, of course, but if something disastrous occurs, you're still, you're able to survive and to pay your bills and to maintain your family unit. Nonetheless, all the guys that got hurt and wrestled for us got paid. And then it goes back to their downside guarantee. They got paid if your downside guarantee, and this is just a number because it's easy math for me. If your downside guarantee was $52,000 a year, that means you're making $1,000 a week. You follow me there, Connie?
Yes, sir. Got that.
You're the fucking mortgage guy. You know how to do math. So that's where we were. And they were worried that they couldn't live on their downside guarantee. And I can understand that as well. So, the only thing you can tell them is that, we'll help you if we can. If you get in don't lose your home, don't do something. Let's not let you have something happen that's just disastrous. But, we got to communicate. And on your end, you have to make changes. I don't want to make any changes. Well, you have to make changes because you're not earning the money to sustain the lifestyle that you had established while being on the road. And a lot of guys didn't want to hear that, so it was frustrating. And I was one, I liked the idea of this brand split and the alliance angle. I didn't have any issues with that because I thought long term it could be really good. It's the same thing that when Bill Watts and I talked to Rob Garner and Jimmy Crockett about selling UWF to them and Crockett Promotions. You can have your own Super Bowl. You can have, to keep all your, again, politics, to keep all your incumbents and the beloved NWA happy. So Jimmy didn't have to listen to everybody coming in and, where's my TV time? What are we going to do about TVS? Blah, blah, blah. You could have shared that time on TVS in an organized way. And you could have got all your talents over and occasionally have a trade, occasionally have a turncoat, occasionally have a guy come in that everybody's bidding for. And it could have been great little stories, easy to understand, easy to write, very easy to execute. But that's not, and then at the end of the year, once a year, right there, you have your Super Bowl. And you should get that could be your WrestleMania in JCP. But it just, again, because of jealousies and insecurities with decision makers, paranoia runs deep. And what's that song? And deep in my heart, it will seep. It starts when you're always afraid. Step out of line. The man come and take you away. Who sings that song? Somebody will answer that this week. Anyhow, that's how I visualized it. And it's just one day we're all hot about it. It's going to be great. The next day we're not. And then when you have a plan and then somebody is able to use their influence to go to events and change it the day of, RVD was going to wrestle Undertaker that morning. Then there's a conversation held, and no, that ain't going to happen. Then ironically, Rock does it.
Yeah.
But that's not pit the Rock against Taker and who didn't want to do what. Undertaker would have been fine doing it.
Of course.
He really would, man. He's a pro's pro. He's Clint Eastwood, man. He's going to ride into town, shoot who's got to shoot, get shot when he's got to get shot, and he's going to move on to the next scene. So that's kind of where we were there, Connie. I just, it was very frustrating at times. And my phone rang all the time. In the middle of the night, early morning. I just couldn't sleep, JR. I got to talk to you. Okay. Let me get out of bed. let me get my PJs on or whatever.
Meltzer would be pretty critical of the creative, saying that they're just grasping at straws creatively to try to make fans care. And in the process, as they're flip-flopping the titles so often, it's rendered them meaningless. And now, in an effort to make something special, it feels like nothing is. Meltzer would say the upcoming Survivor Series is the epitome of all these problems. Either the WWF or the Alliance goes, and numerous people are to be out of a job come November 18th, according to the storyline. Of course, nobody believes the storyline, nor should they.
Well, they had long-term contracts.
Right.
We're sometimes we allow ourselves, and I'm the same way, Connie, to mix reality with the fiction of pro wrestling.
I think they mean from a fan standpoint, like the fans know, hey, these guys are signed. They're not leaving.
Right.
And because it feels like, there's no real stakes here, ticket sales are abysmal. Quote, proof of that is ticket sales for Greensboro. At press time, there were only 6,528, meaning half the Coliseum is unsold. This comes on the heels of the live Raw at the Nassau Coliseum, which only drew 7,629 fans. Up until this summer, the WWF had sold out every event in the New York metro area dating back to 1998. Now, after Rock versus Austin couldn't come close to selling out MSG, they didn't come close to selling out a live Raw either. At any point during this, do you remember Vince or anybody else in the inner circle sort of hitting the panic button?
Panic button might be a little extreme, but then again, it's once for perception of that event, that situation. We knew we had to get some people over in the roles that they were, Austin needed to be a baby face. That was easy to figure out. I think he was the biggest star we had. He and Rock didn't change. Rock didn't go heel. So there are two matinee idol stars, fan favorites needed to be in that role. And we to Conrad, I'm biased on this topic. I thought we had a hell of a roster.
Oh, for sure.
And if you look at, when we talked about this last match on this show today, it's a Hall of Fame match. Look at how many guys in that match are Hall of Fame, in the Hall of Fame, or a Hall of Fame, and how many have earned financial security in this wacky ass world of pro wrestling. I'm going to defend that roster to my last breath. And so I can't blame it on the roster. I blame it on the creative and having no direction. There needed to be stronger presence in the creative room that could reach Vince, and maybe guys like Bruce or Pat or me, whatever, should have been more. And maybe they were in their own way. Maybe I was in my own way. But I think there was a point in time there where he just wasn't quite sure what to fucking do.
I know I'm about to ask a silly question that you're going to laugh at, but we know 7 months after this, the WWF would be no more. It would become WWE. So clearly that lawsuit is ongoing. Do you think anyone ever even presented the idea? Clearly it was never going to happen. But do you remember anyone ever saying, hey, what if we go the other way? What if WCW won and we just rebranded ourselves as World Championship Wrestling?
No, that's a quick answer. Vince is not gonna, the WWE is his life.
Right.
And it's his passion. He created it. And as we know it today, for sure. And yes, there was a great platform established for him from his dad and all the partners that are involved. Vince Senior's inner circle. They did a great job of running a very healthy territory and making guys. That's why all the boys want to go in the territory days, want to go to New York. Oh man, once you get in New York, man, you can make some serious money. Nobody said anything about saving it, but you can make some serious money. But I just don't think that there was ever any discussion on that deal. And I think it could have been done very successfully. And the WWE name, as it became, that was hard to get used to.
Yeah. And
that was another big distraction for McMahon. WWF was his creation. And now a court in England is going to ban you from using your own initials and the World Wildlife Fund, which again was I thought, and this has nothing to do for you animal lovers, because I'm an animal lover myself. It had nothing to do with their cause and what they were created to do. Speaking of WWF, the World Wildlife Foundation, or whatever it's called. But it had everything to do with having to rebrand everything. Everything. The WWF initials were forbidden to be seen. And so he went to WWE and World Wrestling Entertainment, which I think speaks volumes of where Vince's head was.
Yeah.
This show and our booking tried to resemble a situation where we're trying to get a multi-layered soap opera with a huge ensemble cast all on the same page. And it's a great concept to be all on the same page, but there were times during that era, Conrad, where we couldn't find the book to get to that page. It just was so disjointed. It was disheartening. And so I don't think so. I don't think that WCW thing would ever have even been considered. But it's an interesting question for this sort of conversation.
Let's talk about the next show here. It's built around Vince teasing someone from the Alliance is going to jump to the WWF. So it's become mental warfare, and he's trying to create distrust with the leader of the Alliance, Steve Austin. Eventually, SmackDown is taped and Taz is stunned by Austin. And as a result, you step up and take over on commentary. What'd you think of this creative and what this meant for you? Hey, we're gonna put it on Taz here, the paranoia of Steve Austin. So Jim, go do SmackDown.
Well, I was happy Vince had confidence in me to do my job, quite frankly. But it was an interesting angle. You know, Taz was really over in the beginning, no doubt. You know, I said this before. He was mishandled, and he got an injury early on. We just started getting kind of rolling, which was very disheartening for him, especially. But it was unfortunate because essentially that injury killed his future. He was, you know, he comes in and debuts at the Garden, and guess who he beats? Kurt Angle. Angle hadn't had too many L's at that point in time. So I had a lot of confidence in Taz. That's why I signed him. I thought he could help us. But, you know, again, taller heels that had influence. The jury was already stacked, and I didn't really realize it to what degree people would go to, you know, he's not safe, he's unsafe, and all this other stuff. So, but I thought that it kind of was impactful, what Steve did. And it was all about Steve, not about Taz. It's about getting Austin some shine, spotlight. And then me coming out there and helping out on commentary it was another day at the office for me, and one I enjoyed doing, but I knew that it was all about Steve, and if it's all about Steve, I'm all in.
Meltzer had something to say about Steve. He says Austin volunteered to put The Undertaker over on SmackDown in exchange for being able to stun Angle and reintroduce the beer spot as a step into his babyface turn. At this point, Austin, with the backing from Jim Ross, is trying to turn face, which others, as mentioned last week, are still against. It appears Austin's idea is to be a lone wolf like Sting was in 1997. Austin saw the writing on the wall when his merchandise sales went down so badly. The Austin promo on that SmackDown was edited down several minutes, mainly the crowd chanting for RVD and Austin goading them by yelling what. So let's talk through this. He felt like maybe he was getting a little stale and he wanted to turn heel, and we saw what happened at WrestleMania 17. Now the business is taking a dump, and so is his merchandise. And I'm sure he got one of those quarterlies and thought, maybe not. What do you remember about him second guessing being a heel?
Well, you could monetarily and statistically validate the fact that was the wrong creative decision.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you get a guy that's selling more merchandise than anybody in history of the company, and now he's not. And it's dropped drastically. And that's significant money. I've said this before on the show, that there was one quarter where he got a $1 million royalty check selling T-shirts.
Yeah.
And so when those numbers drop significantly, it's a significant amount of money. It's not he was only making $100,000 a quarter. No. He was making a lot more than that. Millions, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that $1 million one was just one I remembered because it was pretty significant. It validated my point to Steve at that point in time that him turning babyface from being that lame ass ringmaster character that he didn't like, and I don't know who did. And he, hey, look, you turn babyface, you're getting over organically, the best way, the right way, and at some point they're going to start buying your merch, and I think they're going to buy a lot of it. And I'd give him some numbers without names, some guys, royalty checks, and that intrigued him. Steve it's all about the money. He's got the right perception of what the business is. It's about the money. I watched a thing the other day on maybe Sunday night or sometime, interview with Bobby Heenan. And Heenan says, you get in the wrestling business for anything but the money, you're making a mistake from the get-go. That's what it's all about. You got to protect your investment. You got to protect your brand. And he broke down how to be a heel manager in about 10 seconds, 30 seconds max, better than anybody I've ever heard, because he may have been the very best manager that I ever saw. And I've got to work with some really, really good managers, including Cornette, including Heyman, JJ, all these guys who are good in their own way. but Heenan was the president of the class. He graduated with honors. So it's just, I don't know. I just think you go with what the audience wants. They give us great market research. Let's use it. They use it. Let's just use it. So, and we stopped using it. And then when the merch started sliding for Steve, I think he realized, hey, look, it was fun to try. We thought we'd give it a shot. Maybe if it worked, then it's a different story. It didn't work. So now we got to move on and readjust. We got to change quarterbacks. We got to change offenses. And that's kind of what we did there.
Hey man, this holiday season, I've been using Home Chef to channel my inner Gordon Ramsay. That's because Home Chef just teamed up with Gordon Ramsay to bring his 5-star stress-free recipes straight to your kitchen. Between school nights and busy schedules, it's never been easier to cook like a pro without the pressure. You see, Home Chef is rated #1 by users of other meal kits for quality, convenience, value, taste, and recipe ease. Home Chef makes cooking simple. Fresh food delivered, easy recipes to follow, and meals that actually taste great. And now with Gordon Ramsay's exclusive recipes on the Home Chef menu, you can enjoy 5-star meals without the stress. Choose from Gordon Ramsay's co-branded dishes featured across Home Chef's culinary collection, classic meal kits, and even the express options, each crafted to make you feel like you have a chef in your own kitchen. Whatever kind of day it is, classic recipes with fresh ingredients, maybe a 30-minute meal, an oven-ready tray, or just the quick microwave options, Buddy Home Chef has you covered. They've even got a dedicated family menu, which will get you those hassle-free, delicious dinners. And it's not one size fits all. Home Chef has over 30 meal options each week with choices for different diets and tastes. Plus, it's affordable. Home Chef customers save an average of $86 per month on groceries. And right now, for a limited time, Home Chef is offering our listeners 50% off and free shipping on your first box. Plus, you get free dessert for life. Go right now to homechef.com/JR. That's homechef.com/JR for 50% off your first box and free dessert for life. That's homechef.com/JR. Of course, you must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert. So Meltzer would say, Ross said with all the injuries, he's recapping your Ross report. Ross said with all the injuries, this is the time for people to step up and get noticed. The only problem is you have to be booked as a star 9 times out of 10 before the fans will treat you as one. And nobody is being elevated to the superstar level in the booking. It's always 2 steps forward and 2 steps back booking. These days, people call it 50-50 booking, Jim. Yep. Is this the era where you think that started to become more of an issue? You've got to placate all of these top guys and it just becomes a real challenge.
Yeah, it does. And, I think Vince in today's world, Cowboy Bill Watts in his always world would have said, if you're unhappy, let's just get your ass out of here. If this isn't working, I can't solve all your ills. And I disagree somewhat with Dave, and I respect Dave's knowledge and his track record a great deal. But, it's not, the talents can do something about it. You can go with ideas, you can make suggestions, and you can make sure that you maximize your minutes. Every time you go out there, whether it's a match that you're losing or you're winning or against an opponent that's not up to your speed, whatever it is, there's no excuses. You have to perform and maximize your minutes. That's what I was trying to say there. And hopefully somebody's going to squeeze themselves into notoriety to some degree. And to me, that works. It's funny how AEW can build such a successful brand in this length of time. And they've done it. Tony Khan has done it with finishes. We have finishes. You may say, well, that's kind of simple. Hell, that's easy. No, well, it's not always been that way. Everybody's got to have an out. You got to protect me, brother. How am I protected? What's it do for me? Well, your performance in the match is going to do for you. That 3 seconds it takes to lose ain't going to be the end of your career. If you're that tentative as a character, as a performer, and that unskilled, then maybe you need to figure out another line of work. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not disagreeing totally with Dave, but the talent have more to do with their success than is oftentimes perceived. It's easy to rely on creative was bad. That's why I didn't get over it. Creative killed me. What did you do to you recognize that issue? What did you do to counteract it? What did you do to try to correct it? And most of them don't have an answer because they didn't do a damn thing but bitch and cash their checks.
Well, let's talk about somebody else who's looking to cash some checks. Mr. Ric Flair. It's in the Observer that he's talking with the company, and Meltzer would say it comes down to the same thing it always has, which is whether or not they'll pay him what he can make staying home. Flair's book due for a release next fall. That would give Flair the incentive to get back on television somewhere at that point to help push the book. Do you remember having conversations with Rick about trying to come in?
You know, when I read this run through early this morning, I tried to think about that. I'm sure that Rick and I had some conversations. I was, still am a big Ric Flair supporter. I wish him only nothing but the best. You can't be in my role in talent relations and have the opportunity to get a talent, the stature, and the name identity and the skills of Ric Flair and not endorse it. I was all for it. But I think, as I learned going forward, some talents react better negotiating with Vince than they would with me, because it's then the perception that the boss is doing my deal. And if that's what it's going to take to get you sign your paper, your contract, then hell, I don't care. I didn't get a bonus for signing people. That was my job. So I don't remember having specific conversations, Conrad, but I certainly endorsed the fact that if we could get Ric Flair on our roster, that's what we should do.
We get to November 8th, and the company lays off 39 employees, including the president, Stu Snyder. How does that come to be? What can you tell us about Stu Snyder?
Well, Stu was a Turner guy, came over from Turner, and Stu did help orchestrate the buying of all we did was basically buy the WCW library. That's how they went. That's how they rolled out. There was no big money exchange. It was significant money. Probably wouldn't be for you, but Billionaire Connie. I saw that.
Oh my gosh. Listen to that. That's that Gerald Briscoe stuff. Knock that off.
Yeah. Mr. McMahon.
Yeah.
I love Gerald. I saw a picture of him online the other day, and I tweeted it back. He looked like Tommy Lee Jones playing the Wolfman. He's classy. I love Gerald. We've been on so many trips. I learned so much from him. He was a great listener, and God Almighty, I would vent to him more than anybody. He was my guy. We rode together, and just the two of us a lot. And I knew that I could trust him. Gerald Briscoe never, ever violated my trust. Not one time. And you say, well, what's the big deal about that, JR? It's a big deal in wrestling when you find somebody that won't violate your trust. And that was Jerry. I love Jerry, still do. So I don't know where I was, but nonetheless.
Stu Snyder.
Oh, Stu, yeah. Stu had no product knowledge running a wrestling company that was trying to become more. And I think Stu had done something with Cartoon Network, and maybe I'm trying to reach back there. I didn't have a great rapport with him. I just see him a lot. A little guy that kind of had that little Napoleonic personality. And I remember him having an issue. And when Vince found this out, it was the beginning of the end. Stu did not want to ride in a black limousine because he had a limo, and he sure as hell didn't want a black driver. And when Vince found out that he only wanted white limousines and white drivers, as I remember it, that was the nails started being driven in the coffin. So I'm glad Stu was able to negotiate a good deal to buy the library.
Holy shit. I had not heard that story.
Yeah, and I didn't know. It didn't work right. And I tell you, some of the people, maybe more than one actually, in travel, because I would meet with travel, because talents had issues and center seats and blah blah blah, because they're too fucking lazy to go online and manage their own seating on their airline apps, or go online and get select their seat. They took potluck when they got to the airport, and then all of a sudden they found out they're in 34F and it's in the middle seat. or something along those lines. But they would say, you know, he's a very unique guy about his travel. And I said, what do you mean? Well, you know, he didn't want a black driver. What? He didn't want to ride any black limousines. So I know the black driver is true. I was thinking here now. I don't know that it was he didn't want a white limo or a black limo, but there was something about that. Who gives a shit, Conrad? It's a limo. You're getting a chauffeur-driven ride to wherever you're going. What difference does it make what color the car is, and especially what color the driver is? And I think when Vince got word of that, any confidence that he had in Stu to continue there and be a significant contributor started to disappear.
Holy cow. I don't even know how to respond to that, but yeah, that's weird, dude.
Well, nobody knew. I mean, you're not going to, in a job interview, you don't ask people about maybe we should, I don't know. Maybe, but I never did ask people what their politics were, their religion was, or their thoughts on race relations, things of that nature. I just didn't, it just didn't come up in the interview process. Maybe it should have. I don't know. But that was that deal. But I noticed right off the bat, Stu thinking he was comparing wrestlers to cartoon characters.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
And it's just, they're real. They're real humans with real feelings, and treat them as such.
Let's talk about the Raw on the 12th. Mick Foley cuts what's essentially a farewell promo. Meltzer would write, fans were happy to see him, but he didn't seem happy, and it came across. He basically said he wouldn't be around much longer. The storyline was if Alliance won, he'd be out of a job, but if the WWF won, he'd also be out of a job because he didn't want to work for Vince. That took the crowd down. He also mentioned that the previous week when TV was in Nassau and the Meadowlands, that he was there both nights, but they had nothing for him. And he seemed upset, in particular, that on Long Island, where he grew up, they couldn't find a reason to get him on Raw, which was a true story. And it feels like he's probably burnt out and just ready to ride off into the sunset. Do you remember him expressing how frustrated he was with you at this point?
He wasn't so frustrated with me because I didn't do the booking, do the creative. But it is a head scratcher why on his home turf, a big star like Mick Foley wasn't on the card in some way. He's so versatile. He could have done a lot of things. He could cut a promo, could have wrestled, he could have done tags, whatever. It's just funny to me that couldn't be done. And I think, to me, it goes back to the fact that, well, he's been here a long time. He's like that old comfortable pair of ugly house shoes you just don't want to throw away because your feet slip right into the house shoe very simply and very, very easily. I think he was taken for granted a lot, quite frankly. And let's remember, when he first came to WWE, WWF, he was not at the top of the wish list. And I think that had a latent, and then he got over despite everything around him. And so anyway, I felt bad for Mick. He deserved better. He deserved better. And, but the jury had cast its verdict, apparently.
Well, we're going to get a 20-minute Margaritaville promo that people still remember to this day with Steve Austin and The Rock. But I don't know what that does to really sell the pay-per-view, but boy, they get into it the next day. This is where we would see Paul Heyman cut his infamous promo on Vince McMahon that I guess a lot of people could even refer to as the first pipe bomb promo. Heyman is going to tell Vince that he hated him just like his kids do. And he says that Vince is used to having Patterson and Briscoe kiss his ass all day and that he used Hogan's blood to build Titan Towers. Ooh. He destroyed Bret Hart to buy himself a private jet. He ruined Shawn Michaels' smile and made himself a billionaire. And he talked about how Vince's father went around the country telling all the promoters he wouldn't compete with them. But when he died, Vince drove everyone out of business, stealing their ideas and making money from them. He said that Vince got most of his ideas from himself, stealing his dreams and his legacy and his ideas. And when he said when Vince was using Doink, he had Austin drinking beer in ECW. And he talked about Vince would flaunt his affairs in Playboy and how his family hated him for it. And he said Taz was a wrestler, but Vince thinks wrestling is a dirty word. And he turned Taz into a no good color commentator. Taz then came in and choked Heyman out to a huge babyface pop. And Meltzer would say this was the excuse to get rid of Taz as an announcer. And of course, Jim Ross came out. Vince then yelled at Heyman saying the alliance will choke on Sunday. But my goodness, they're letting Heyman have a lot of leeway here with Vince.
Yep.
Did Vince know everything that was going to be said, or did he just say, give it to me good, or what have you?
Oh, I'm sure they went over some of the finer bullet points, Connie. I wasn't in that particular meeting. It's good for me to not know all those details so I could react in an organic and a real way.
Yeah.
But it was stiff. Pardon me. And it certainly was a pipe bomb like moment. We refer back to the CM Punk pipe bomb as being epic, still talked about today. But don't forget this Heyman one. If you're going to go back and watch some of this show, watch Elements. That's an element that you want to check out because it was a heavy duty, heavy hitting promo. And I remember a lot of the talents wondering if Heyman was shooting. You know, I always admire Paul's moxie, but he ain't that stupid. He ain't going to go on TV and say all these things without it being cleared at the home office.
Of course.
So come on. But he did. He executed. He came through with a hell of a promo. So
go to our Twitter feed right now. We're going to have it linked today on Thursday as you're hearing this over at JR Grilling if you want to see it. I want to mention Eddie Guerrero is arrested for a DUI around this time and winds up being released just 2 days later. And we know that this is going to be where Eddie takes to the indies and really rebuilds his image and his brand and makes a big impression on a lot of young guys like CM Punk, who's working the independents at the time. But this is one of those deals where you, as the head of talent relations, have to make a tough call. When you find out about the DUI, what do you remember about the decision and how we got there? And then ultimately having this conversation with Eddie.
Well, Eddie had those substance issues, found out later on, and he needed some help, but he was in denial. He felt like he was fine. He didn't need any help. And we needed to help him solve his issue and get some relief from his the substances. That's why he was let go. He wasn't let go because he all of a sudden overnight became a poor worker. He was still one of the best in the world. And you, as a talent guy, like I was, same analogy with Flair. If you get a chance to get Ric Flair, sign him. If you got a chance to get Eddie Guerrero healthy and get him back in the fold, try to do that. But again, the old two to tango cliche is applicable here as well. And I had a lot of talks with Eddie. Eddie was in deep depression and he had a lot of issues. But you recognize these problems and you come up with solutions. Hey, we'll get you some. And wrestlers didn't want to hear about getting counseling. Oh my God. I admire John Moxley for what he's done. The courage it takes to stand up in front of your peers and your world, your fans, your family, your wife, friends, everybody is extraordinary. So I'll always have amazing respect for John Moxley, and we all should. But Eddie didn't want to go that route. It was in today's world, he probably would have because it's more accepted. But then it's some sign of weakness. And so that we made the only decision that we could make because he didn't want to change. And I told him, as long as you don't want to change, we're not going to be able to use you. Because, the things he did, Conrad, required finite execution. And it's very easy for Eddie to get hurt or hurt somebody because he's just a little bit off. Because when he wasn't a mat wrestler. He could mat wrestle, but he was all that high flying stuff that he did. He could either hurt himself or hurt his opponent. And remember what happened when he first got here. He did a frog splash and tore up his shoulder.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's where we were there. And I loved Eddie. I still love Eddie. It's funny. Eddie's anniversary of Eddie's death, ironically, in Minneapolis was this past Saturday while we were all in town. It was brought to my attention that he died in the Marriott, 1 block away from where we stayed. And I thought it was, and I know that it was made specifically that we are not to stay at the Marriott, because that would have been hard for a lot of people to swallow. So we stayed at another hotel, still downtown, Lowe's, right across the street from the Target Center, and which is beautiful because you can walk across the street to the building. But we really respected that with Eddie, and it's funny that a lot of the talents today, Conrad, still respect Eddie like he was alive.
Yeah,
he's still in the locker room, all those things. So that's shows a great love and respect that he earned. But we made sure that Marriott was not in the picture. And if I'm not mistaken, it's the same hotel that Brian Pillman died in Minneapolis.
Oh, I hope not.
So we got out of that whole that old Marriott thing, and that was one of the reasons. And that's the sensitivities of Tony Khan. I've had owners and bookers that wouldn't give a shit.
Right.
I got the best rate there at the Marriott, so that's where we're staying.
I unfortunately found with a Google search that Brian Pillman passed away at the Budgetel Motel.
Oh, was it?
Now the La Quinta in Bloomington. So that would have been tough if that was
the same town.
Yeah.
Same town. I'm off there. Thanks for doing that research. But I know Eddie was at the Marriott. So that's why we had no desire to stay there. So it was good. And that Lowe's is sold out. You know, if you didn't have a key, just as like you're a fan, you sort of come over and hang at the bar. I don't think that was happening. So, cause if it had been, the bar was small. It was smaller than your bar at home, which is also, it's like a ballroom in Huntsville.
Listen to you and Briscoe got to stop all that. Let's talk about the Survivor Series. Here we are. The show itself is the 15th presentation of the Survivor Series. It's in Greensboro, North Carolina. We've got 10,142 fans there, which is about 50% capacity.
Yeah.
$594,000 at the gate, another 91 grand in merch. By comparison, Survivor Series the prior year had 14,753 fans in Tampa, 779 grand at the gate, another 114 at the merch stand. It's just amazing what a difference a year makes. And boy, we start with a pretty talented duo. It's Christian retaining his European title, pinning Al Snow in 6.5 minutes. The match was made on a challenge during the Heat pre-show. Meltzer would say it was very good for what it was, and the live crowd, which was hot all night, was into it. 2 3/4 stars is the rating from Dave. Christian hits the unprettier after several near falls with a pin. Kind of a throwaway match, but still good action.
Yeah.
And Al Snow with his presentation was over here, and obviously Christian was. So two talents that the fans can, identify with, get behind, and get us started here.
Christian and Al, two great pros. Al Snow still, he's the head honcho there at OVW now. I guess Al owns it. And great instructor. You can learn a lot from Al Snow. But there are two great pros. And of course, Christian is completely, after an absence of several years, seemingly from the mainstream, has really evolved beautifully in AEW. He had a great match, part of a great match on Saturday night. So it was a good way to start the show. It kind of set the tone for some good wrestling. They're going to be solid. They're going to be fundamentally sound. And both those guys did that very admirably.
This message is sponsored by Raycon. Raycon's everyday earbuds have become a go-to gift for the holidays. They sound great. They last all day and then some with 32 hours of battery life, and they actually stay comfortable no matter how long you wear them. Over 4 million people already have a pair. So if you've been curious, now's the time to try them out. For Black Friday and Cyber Monday, you can get up to 30% off all Raycon products. That's perfect for gifting or keeping for yourself. The Everyday Earbuds Classic are loaded with upgrades. You get active noise cancellation, multi-point connectivity so you can pair with 2 devices at once, and even an ergonomic fit that actually stays put no matter what you're doing. And I got to tell you, that's my wife's favorite feature. She's used the other stuff before, but Raycon is the only earbud that actually fits her. I mean, she can work out every morning at 4 a.m. and do whatever she needs to do. Put herself through the paces, and the Raycons are there. And let me just tell you, the new colors, man, they're a vibe. They feel much more, I don't know, like a fashion accessory that matches me and my personality, and less like just earbuds. You can also do the everyday features. They've got things like the quick charge. With just 10 minutes, you get a 90-minute amount of playtime. How about that? 10 minutes on the charge, bam, 90 minutes of playtime. Did I mention a 32-hour battery life when you use the case? You've also got awareness mode. It's perfect if you're walking the dog or running errands. You can still stay tuned in with what's happening around you without missing a beat. With over 3 million customers already loving their Raycons, you will too. And I want you to know they come with a 30-day happiness guarantee. So if you don't love them, returns are easy and you never have anything to lose. Raycon's going big for Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Everything's up to 30% off. Just click the link in the description or go to buyraycon.com/JR to save on Raycon audio products site-wide. That's buyraycon.com/JR. That's BUYRAYCON.com/JR. Buyraycon.com/JR. Let's talk about the next match here. It's William Regal beating Yoshihiro Tajiri, 2 minutes and 59 seconds. Meltzer would say it was good while it lasted, but again, too short. Regal got something like his third bloody nose of the week. Tajiri did a few hard kicks before Regal ended it with a double arm suplex into a power bomb. After the match, Regal gave Tajiri a second double arm into a power bomb, and that's when Tori Wilson came out, and he gave her one as well. So star and a half. We love these guys on camera. Their skits and whatnot on Raw are just show stealers every single time.
Yep.
Two very talented in-ring performers too, but awfully short, under 3 minutes here.
Yeah, it was. Just like that phone call came in, spam deal. I hate those son of a bitches. There's got to be some app. Everything's an app. I should have 10 apps that allow me to block anything that's spam related. I'm sure there is, but you got to hunt this and drag that and click here and add your social security number and your birth date, your sperm count, all those things. And I'm not interested in dividing all that information up.
What is your sperm count these days?
I don't know. It's pretty good.
I'm going to take your word for it.
Last I checked. But anyhow, I don't experience those, that particular emotion a lot nowadays. What's on my mind and what's going on, but maybe I ought to kick out. I love both those guys.
Yeah.
Again, you've heard me say, Conrad, the most valuable quality a wrestler can have for me to be attracted to and want to sign in those days was reliability.
Yeah.
And man, you could not rely on two men more than William Regal and Tajiri. Tajiri had both those guys had amazing comedic timing. And here's the other thing. They both had amazing facial expressions. And that sold a lot of their work. So it was short that when you got the last match going, between a half hour and an hour, or it was 40-something minutes, timing is a big issue. We probably booked one, and maybe you could even make an argument, Conrad, that we booked too many matches on that show based on how much time the main event was going to require.
It's a little weird that it feels like, based on what we just saw. I mean, with him, doing a move to Tajiri after the bell and then doing one on Tori, feels like we're setting him up to be a heel, but the next night he has to kiss Vince's ass to keep his job. That's where we start.
Weird. Yeah. Crazy, right?
Doesn't make any sense.
No continuity. And, I remember that very well. I remember that club.
We're going to talk about it next week. That's what we'll be.
Oh, good. I can't wait. It was such an edifying, valuable experience in my career when my face got buried in Vince McMahon's ass crack.
Mm.
But what do? What the coach tells you to run this play, Conrad? What's Ole JR do? He runs the goddamn
fucking play. Yeah,
that's it.
Well, the next play is Edge pinning Test to win the Intercontinental title and retain his U.S. title in 11 minutes and 17 seconds, and that ends the history of the WCW U.S. title, which moving forward will be dropped. Meltzer would say, ironic end for both WCW, which was spawned by Jim Crockett Promotions, whose best city was Greensboro, and the U.S. title was created in 75 for Johnny Valentine when George Scott wanted to change the territory to a singles territory. It had always been a tag team territory. And it was really put on the map when Valentine beat Harley Race for the title in the very same building. So nice little footnote in history here.
Yeah.
3.5 stars. Edge gets the win. Meltzer called it a very good match, which, if we're honest, not speaking ill of the dead, Meltzer didn't usually rate test matches very well, but he really liked it. So nice showing by Test. And as you said, sometimes it's not who goes over, but who gets over. Test looked great here, and Edge went over, and the U.S. title is no more.
I kind of felt like, and I might be overstating this. And, you know, we pro wrestling announcers never overstate something.
Never.
But I might be overstating this. But I think that night was a real coming out party for Edge. I thought he made a giant step forward in his singles career. Because remember, the vast majority of the Edge's exposures on television were with Christian as a tag team. So here he is, you know, how are you going to dance by yourself, the solo dance, not the tag team dance, etc. I thought really Edge elevated himself in that match, and Test should get credit for part of that. But I know Edge had a lot to do with the mechanics of the match, and the fact you got two Canadians who had a lot of respect for each other. They're both from Ontario. They've both known each other a long time. It was just a good coming together of elements that would contribute to making this match good. And it also showed us that just how great Edge could be and would become as a single star. And he still is today. When he's utilized, he still is a major player. So a lot of respect there for Adam Copeland, and always one of my favorite guys.
Are you surprised that Edge didn't wind up in AEW?
No, not really. Not really. You know, he's got a brand established in WWE. It's home for him. He's comfortable there. He's got really good established open communication with Vince, which is crucial. I would would I love to have had him in AEW? Hell yeah. Are you kidding? Absolutely. But I just think that WWE for him after all these years was home. You know, when I signed him and Christian, that was their big goal. Their big goal as young wrestlers, young guys training, young guys in the indies throughout Ontario and beyond was to get to WWE. So I understand his motivation. But yeah, man, again, that's like that same thing about the Flair question a while ago, and all these guys, you got a chance to get them. But he's just Adam. He's a lifer there, and would I like to see Adam Copeland have one match in AEW someday? Of course I would. Most fans would, and you and I would. You would too,
for sure.
Is it going to happen? Unlikely.
Yeah,
highly unlikely, perhaps. But that would have been kind of cool if he had come to work for us. But I understand why he did what he did, and I think he made the right decision.
Let's talk about the Dudleys. They're going to retain the U.S. Or the WCW tag titles and win the WWF tag titles. So they've united the belts here when they beat Matt and Jeff Hardy in a cage match in 15 minutes and 45 seconds. There's some crazy spots here, including Matt Hardy doing a Russian leg sweep on Devon off the top rope while the cage balanced him. And then we would see Bubba do a Bubba bomb off the top rope with Jeff. A lot of history between these two tag teams, and this is a war. 15:45. Meltzer dug it. 3.25 stars. And Matt and Bubba are gonna climb to the top. Matt escapes, leaves Jeff in by himself. Jeff gets pounded on, but makes a comeback. Climbs back over the top with Bubba laid out on the table, and instead of climbing over, does a swanton off the top of the cage. Of course, Bubba moves, so they do this table explosion spot, and he's pinned. Jeff wasn't seriously hurt, although from a logic standpoint, Jeff came across like a real idiot having the match won, but instead blowing it by jumping off the cage. Jeff did a stretcher job with the idea of selling it to keep him off TV. 3.25 stars. What do you think of that creative where you've got this daredevil? He could just simply climb down and win the match, but instead he opts to make the big impression, even at the expense of winning the match.
Well, the cage is there as a elaborate prop to facilitate the spots that we just talked about.
Yeah.
And So that I guess what I'm saying is those guys would have had a phenomenal match with unique creativity. You know, Bubba Dudley's got a great mind for wrestling. You know, he's a very strong-willed, can be stubborn. That's cool. But Bubba and Devon and the Hardys, they had danced so many times together that maybe the cage was there just to facilitate the spots and to perhaps make the match different. But I thought that maybe we were right at the end of that rivalry. People have seen everything, the TLCs and the return TLCs and all these things, Conrad. But two great tag teams, without a doubt. I just don't know that the cage is needed. But I enjoyed. I've never had a match with the Dudleys or the Hardys that I didn't enjoy calling. They just always delivered the goods. They're all total pros. And for Jeff to be willing to do these career-threatening moves, was just extraordinary. He's almost too giving, and he dodged the bullet on that night because he could have very easily been destroyed physically in that match. Thank God he wasn't, but it certainly was a possibility. But I love those guys. They were great soldiers. I enjoyed Bubba on Busted Open Radio throughout the week on Sirius XM. And you can, if you listen, which you should, they directed do a great job. It's like you'll hear Bubba's intellect, his breaking down bookings and matches. You might not agree with all of it, but he's got a reason for why he feels the way he does. And to me, that's very, 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 very valuable. Just still saying, the creator killed us. I got screwed or whatever. I don't get that with Bubba. Bubba's a smart guy. So I'm sure he had a whole lot to do with getting this match laid out. And then you got Matt and Jeff, they're willing to do anything. And Devon's going to mirror what Bubba wants to do. So it was really good. I thought it was really good. I thought it was, Meltzer had it 3.25 stars. I thought it was a little bit better than that, quite frankly.
It is a little ironic too, after that big spectacular bump that we would see Jeff take. It's actually Matt who winds up getting legitimately injured here. The Dudleys knock him into the cage and they nearly knock out his front 2 teeth and badly split his gums here. But thankfully, everybody's okay.
Ain't ballet, Connie.
Just to put some perspective here, the tag champs for the WWF in 1998 were the New Age Outlaws, and the tag champs for WCW were Rick Steiner and Kenny Chaos. So these two tag teams divisions have developed a little differently. Next, we would see Test win a battle royal in 7 minutes and 40 seconds, basically a rush job, according to Meltzer. He would say not awful, but no better than a usual battle royal. And Sean Stasiak was actually dumped out before the bell rang to even start the match, but no one's complaining about that, he says. Taz came in late, got a big pop. Hugh Morris and Chavo Jr. also came in late. It came down to Test and Billy Gunn, of all people, with Test kicking Gunn over the top for the win. So Test had two matches here. He loses earlier, but boy, he comes back and wins the battle royal. It's only a 1 star, but what could you expect with a battle royal? But clearly Vince saw money in Test.
Yeah, he did. Well, Test had he had Vince's look.
Yeah.
Big, tall, muscular, tight body, all those things. And Andrew was not a dummy. And he made personal decisions that were ridiculous. And it eventually took his life, had an effect on his life, ending prematurely. But as far as having a conversation with him or talking the business with him, things of that nature, Andrew was a very sharp guy. And Vince could pick up on that deal. He was well-spoken. And again, he checked every physical box. 6'6", 6'5", whatever he was, had a great body, looked good. But it's just, so Vince saw something. He saw something. I saw something when I signed him, but I just thought he needed a lot more polishing. That's all. That's not an insult. He's got to get better. He's get more reps. But yeah, Vince saw something in Test because Test checked all the boxes.
Next up, we see Trish win a women's title match in a 6-way over Jackie, Jazz, Lita, Mighty Molly, and Ivory. So to recap, we got 6 ladies here, and they get 4 minutes and 35 seconds.
Yeah, that was a travesty. And I've often talked about the importance of Jackie Moore and Jazz and Lita, Molly Holly, Ivory, Lisa Moretti, how important they were to establishing a different look and presentation than the days of Moolah and company. And somebody's a big Moolah fan. I know we've got some out there. They're going to think, "Oh, you knocked Moolah." I'm not knocking Moolah. It's a different style. It's a different style. And what Moolah did all those years, because she had a stranglehold on women's wrestling, and had a strong relationship with all the promoters that booked her girls, as any promoter would try to have if they could. But we need to change. And again, Vince wanted me to sign athletic 10s, but to get those 10s over, which Trish needed help. She needed experienced hands that could lead her along the way to keep her from making mistakes or getting hurt. And but this match was simply designed to get Trish over, and she came through with flying colors, as she always did. Trish, a great athlete. She just didn't have the experience that she needed to get to that top level and stay there. It was a journey for her. But the ladies that I mentioned, they're also in this match, was a part of that journey, and should always be given some credit and recognition for what they contributed to WWE in that era.
Well, we should also mention Meltzer had this to say. The only real point of interest was whether or not Jim Ross or Paul Heyman would mention the name of the last women's champion, Chyna. They didn't. I assume, this is not something that has to be explained. You just understand they're not here. They're not going to be a part of our plans moving forward. So
right.
Just don't talk about it. But yeah, it's worth noting. This is return of the women's title after Chyna leaves the company, and you finally have enough talent to get it started again. And I guess it's common sense that we don't mention her. And before you know it, it's the main event. And boy, is it a long one. 44 minutes, 56 seconds. We've got The Rock, The Undertaker, Kane, Chris Jericho, and Big Show representing the WWF. Meanwhile, Team Alliance is made up of Rob Van Dam, Booker T, Shane McMahon, Steve Austin, and Kurt Angle. And Team WWF wins in 44-56. Before the match, Vince would give his guys a big pep talk and talk about the legacy of the WWF, including people like Buddy Rogers, Dr. Jerry Graham, Andre the Giant, Gorilla Monsoon, and Peter Maivia. And, well, plenty of time, 4.5 stars when it's all said and done. Austin's going to hit Rock with a stunner, but there's no referee. Angle shows up, hits Austin with a title belt, saving the day for the WWF. And Rock scores the pin with the rock bottom. And 8 months after WCW died, 10 months after ECW died, their names within the WWF were officially taken off of life support and allowed to die with no dignity after a branding manslaughter, Meltzer says.
Wow. Hey, waxing the poetic there.
He is, man. And listen, you've got a lot of talent in here. The Rock's a Hall of Famer. The Undertaker's a Hall of Famer. Kane and Jericho and Big Show, all Hall of Famers. The other side, the same story. RVD, Booker T, Shane McMahon, Austin, Kurt Angle. But it just doesn't feel like the right ingredients and maybe the right time. And they say in business, timing's everything.
Yeah.
What do you think of this one, watching it back for the first time in a long time?
Well, again, the thing that strikes me is that how much talent were involved in the match. And when you're trying to create an environment where everybody can have some level of shine, different increments of time, obviously. I got my 30 seconds. Here's your 30 seconds. It wasn't that way, but everybody needs to have a shine. Everybody, because all those guys you were perceived, I think, maybe I'm being biased, are main event level guys. They're all stars. I like the fact that Vince, because there was some consideration about that, making an elimination match, and I was all for it, and I was not in the majority. I thought it would be great for guys to lose with somebody else's finish or get weakened by somebody's finish or whatever, but better than just the, simple over the top rope spots. And so having an elimination, and so you got odds like in hockey, power play goal in hockey or something. You got a team that has one more player than the other. They have an advantage for now. Oh, all of a sudden now we're back to 4 versus 4, whatever it may be. So I was amazed that there was enough continuity in that match for it to make some sense. Again, you got to share some time across the board so everybody gets a little bit of a shine. Those that are losing, especially, and everybody's going to lose with one guy. So how do you manage those spots? And there's where I would say a guy like Patterson came in and really was able to add some order and some continuity and some degrees of logic as well. Pat was very much an innovator in the old San Francisco Battle Royal with Roy Shire, the promoter out there. Pat had done a lot of these things where a Battle Royal was once a year or so, as I understand it, in the Cow Palace. And so Patterson was able to pull it all together with help with others. I'm sure Jerry Briscoe was involved, and it was a team effort, and it had to be a team effort when you got so many egos and so many stars in place at one time. So I thought it was well managed and well structured, but that doesn't take into account, were we ready for this angle? Was the audience prepared for this? Apparently they weren't ready in Greensboro. Look at the attendance. Shivani and I worked our first match together on TBS at Clash 1, and we had a lousy crowd, but I think it might have been bigger than this one. I'm not sure, but something happened along the way in Greensboro that just shot their toes, and that may be one of the reasons that there's not been a significant amount of pay-per-views held subsequently in Greensboro. Great wrestling city. I was at awe when I got in that arena because I'd watched the ACC basketball tournament from that venue for years when Michael Jordan was a pup. He won he was a star of the game as a freshman in the NCAA finals. He had all those great basketball teams from Tar Helia and beyond, but it was very disappointing to walk in there and see all the empty seats.
Yeah.
Because goddamn, Connie, there was a bunch of them.
It really is one of the more debated and discussed angles and matches and payoffs and storylines in history. And apparently there's some folks who aren't thrilled. Do you remember there being any heat on Shane McMahon? Well,
not that anybody would come forward and say. I'm sure there's grumblings in the locker room. Somebody got left out of the match that had more experience and was quote unquote more deserving. I'm sure that occurred, but if it did, it occurred behind closed doors.
I only bring it up because Meltzer says there was quote unquote secret heat afterwards, whatever the hell
there you
go,
means,
on Shane McMahon because of not only how lame his firing on Raw was, but because he took everyone's finish the night before, including a tombstone, a move that's basically unofficially banned for regular use. It was helped out, but then didn't sell anything the next night.
Yeah.
And
good.
Angle came back from a stretcher job and didn't sell that on TV the next day. So Meltzer says it's not just a boss's son problem, but it does feel like that's something that the guys can't be too loud and proud about because of who he is. But it's certainly implied here in the Observer that some folks weren't happy.
Well, I think the implications made by Meltzer was probably pretty accurate. There were guys that didn't understand, why another guy wasn't in the match instead of Shane. The lack of selling was the quintessential, I got to look strong. And talents don't understand that by selling, you are looking strong, because if you're selling, you're in the ring you're trying to compete. You're trying to win the game. It's like Herm Edwards. The goal is to win the game. And that's how I would look at it. But to look strong, we must be strong like bull. It takes away from the presentation. And talents in today's world, one thing I could say to younger talents, Don't let selling intimidate you. Use it as an asset, and use it as the guys that can really. Why do we always talk about when people sell, the great sellers? Two names always come up. I guarantee you know who they are.
Sure.
Ricky Morton, Ricky Steamboat.
Yep.
They made a living being great performers, which includes being a great great sales jobs. We saw that Saturday night in Minneapolis. So many guys sold. It made the matches infinitely better because they were selling and reacting, and you could feel the hurt. You could feel those punches. And that's for Kingston and CM Punk, for example. I saw some people bitching about, well, they only had 10 minutes. No, they had more time than that if they needed it. The issue is that both of them came to the conclusion that a real fight's not going to last 20 minutes.
That's correct.
And so going 10 minutes of intensity and constant movement and punishment and all those things I thought was spot on. I too would have liked to see more because I was enjoying what I was watching and calling so much, but I did understand the fact that you can't have a fist fight and I use the Lord's name in vain in that. It just popped out. I apologize during the show. But I just, selling is such a crucial thing. Selling is one of the items that you could list right at the top of your list that made Full Gear great. Talents, selling, telling a story, and selling is a part of the storytelling process. And any wrestler that believes that it makes them look weak really don't get it. They just don't get it. It's all about me and not about the match. And that is total bullshit. We didn't have that Saturday night whatsoever. Rarely do. That's the best I recall. Our guys sell like crazy. They're learning. They're seeing what it results in. So, but the other thing about this match, I got in one match, Conrad, I got 10 guys to pay. 10 payoffs are going to be divided from one match. And that's challenging. Because you say, well, you just pay everybody the same. You don't pay everybody the same. Are you kidding me? Come on. So there's and you know all the boys are going to talk. And that's when they embellish their payoffs. What'd you get? Well, I got this. What? And I've had that happen more than once. So what do? I bring both guys in. Did you tell him he made blank? Yeah. Why'd you lie to him? Oh, just come on, JR. It's only a rib. It's always only a rib. Ribbon on the square. One of the great traits of a wrestler. But that was another challenging thing. Paying these guys on a pay-per-view that didn't do great. The pie that we cut up, the slice for you, a slice for Conrad, a slice for Eric Bischoff and all these dudes, all of our guys, and on the ad-free network. We have a different pay schedule, but the bottom line is you still got to pay all these guys something fair because they want a pay-per-view main event payoff. Whatever that is perceived to be in their minds, that's what they are expecting. To the point where probably some of them had already spent that money that they perceived they were going to get. If they fall short, then there's issues. I don't remember there being any mass mutiny. I just remember that getting to this number was really hard, and to where you feel good about paying guys, and to what they hopefully will be happy with. All the while knowing that nobody, can you think I can make 10 guys completely happy? No. So you do your best, man. You do your best, be honest, upfront, and fair. And sometimes my definition of fair was a different definition of the talents. And when it comes to money, cash and creative, somebody said that, it's a big deal. It's the big ills. If you're on the outs, it's usually one of those two things, cash or creative, and that's a fact.
And the creative here wound up like it always does, Rock versus Austin, and Angle turns his back to being a babyface, kind of, at least for one day. We know where it's going. We'll keep the story going, but the alliance is finally put out of their misery, and so is Paul Heyman. The next night on Raw, Paul Heyman's fired. Jerry Lawler returns, and what do you know? Ric Flair makes his return to the WWF. I guess you had to make sense of it, and you had to have him return on Raw. It wouldn't have made sense at Survivor Series, but Flair in Greensboro, if the timing was right, would have been awesome. But we'll cover Lawler's return, Paul Heyman's firing, the reset of creative, Flair's actual return after a 9-year absence, Vince McMahon becoming a heel again, and so much more when we pick up the pieces next week for a November 26, 2001 episode. This is famous because, well, this is where you kiss Vince McMahon's ass, right in the middle of the ring, and wouldn't you know it?
Let's just record it now. It makes me feel good for this.
Oklahoma City. So of course we got to do something to Jim Ross. That was par for course for a long time there.
Oh yeah. I knew that was going to happen. What did they do to me that night? You remember? Other than kissing Vince's ass, was there any more insult to injury? I can't recall.
We'll find out next week, but my goodness.
I'll tell you this though, as many of the talents probably vouch for, because they kiss it all the time, he did have immaculate cleanliness. It's fine. My kids are going, Dad, why did you do that? Oh, I don't know, honey. It's just what it was.
That was Daddy's job, baby.
That's right. That's why those Christmas presents keep coming.
But these days, JR's got a much better gig. It's jrsbbq.com.
Yeah.
We've talked about it for a long time here. The all-purpose seasoning. A lot of people are going to be cooking next week, Jim. And if you're not sure what to put on your turkey, may I recommend the all-purpose seasoning? It's good with everything, right, Jim?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Conrad. And Stephen Link and I spent a lot of time on our sales packages and to fit every budget. They're great stocking stuffers. So for those of you listening and don't want me to drone on about why you should buy our products, it's obvious why you should buy our products, because they're good.
Yep.
And I want to share them with you and make some sales. But the bottom line is, if you're a wrestling fan, and I can't imagine somebody listening to this show that's not a wrestling fan, it's a great stocking stuffer. It's a great gift. We got these packages together that we got to get a sampler, so to speak. You can buy them individually, a la carte, if you will. I love the a la carte. So jrsbbq.com. We're ready. We're ready for your holiday shopping, and hope if you're ready to venture into our world. And if you've been putting off buying some products and you hear us talking about it incessantly, which we do, I apologize for that. Then I would say this is time to try it. Give us a shot. And we're waiting on that. It's coming soon, I promise you. We've got the labels have been approved. Everything is ready. The most important thing, that the product's developed. It's ready to go. And that's Red Ass JR's hot sauce, which is really a byproduct of what we do here. I didn't go crazy today yet, but bottom line is it's a good time to sample, good time to try us. And we appreciate your consideration for any holiday shopping that you want to do with us. We're very grateful for the opportunity.
We're excited about jrsbbq.com. Something for everybody. The original barbecues, the hot barbecue sauce, the Chipotle ketchup, the main event mustard, the jerky, and my favorite, the all-purpose seasoning. Check it out right now, jrsbbq.com. And don't forget, next week, man, it's going to be here before you know it. A very special Wednesday Dynamite right before Thanksgiving, right there in Chicago, the unofficial home away from home for AEW. And Jim and I will be back next week talking about Vince McMahon's Kiss My Ass Club. I have a feeling I'll have more fun with that one than Jim Ross will, but
I'll be fine. I've gotten over it. It's only taken me 20 years. I don't hold grudges. I put my ego aside, believe it or not. It was heavy. It's so heavy. Oh my. It was so heavy, but I've done it, and it's more cathartic to move on. I've learned those lessons throughout my 69 years of life, and big week for me next week on a medical front. Big week I'm going to make it to Chicago, come hell or high water. At least that's my goal. And I really appreciate the outpouring of support that I've been getting on social media is extraordinary. It's heartfelt. And I can't tell you, I'm never alone. Even though Jan's not here, I got our audience. I got wrestling fans, and I got a lot of them. And I'm not saying that braggadociously. I'm saying that out of thanks and gratitude. So I'm never alone. And I really appreciate everybody's support, and the good wishes are, I read them all. They come across on Twitter at JRSBBQ. You can bet your ass I'm going to read them. I may not respond to all of them, just out of time and all that stuff, but I really do appreciate it. It lets me know I'm not forgotten by the masses, and I don't plan on being in a position to be forgotten. So nonetheless, Conrad, interesting times, it's part of the journey. We talk about that all the time. How do you navigate your specific journey in life? And folks, a lot of you are that way. I get I get social media stuff about Bell's palsy. I get it about different things that it's amazing. People realize they remember my medical history, which has got to be crazy, but nonetheless, I do appreciate everybody's support. It warms my heart and gives me motivation to go on.
Well, we're excited that we're going to be going on next week here talking about Jim Ross joining the Kiss My Ass Club. It's going to be fun. Stay tuned, boys and girls. We'll see you next week right here on Grillin' JR with the voice of wrestling, Mr. Jim Ross.
Conrad, always great to be with you. It's always even better to be with our audience. We appreciate the amazing support. Conrad's adfreeshows.com is dominating the podcast rankings globally. And that's a combined effort of a lot of people that you don't even hear about. You don't even see. He's got a great staff, and all the boys, Arn, Kurt, all the fellas, Eric, Tony. Tony's book's getting ready to come out. That's another stocking stuffer, but you buy that after you buy my shit.
JRsBBQ.com. We'll see you guys next week right here on Grillin' JR.
Thanks, everybody.
Hey, just in time for the holidays, what if you didn't have to worry about any of that credit card debt? If you're feeling stuck making the minimum payments and you don't want to have to put Christmas on a credit card, we can help at SaveWithConrad.com. We routinely help our listeners save hundreds of dollars a month. Find out how much money you can save right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.